is something about classical literature or your study of it, which somehow gave you sustenance through this journey. Does that make sense?
Makes plenty of sense, actually. So when I was beginning to figure out for myself just what it might mean to study ancient Greek and Roman texts, I came across this interview that the poet Helen Bendler had given in the Paris Review when I was in high school. And she had spoken in that interview of the sustenance that poetry provides, and of the sustenance that can be derived from humanistic study, and how it can, through humanistic study, one can. Wow, I didn't know I could project that. I hope everyone's ears are okay. And how through humanistic study one can arrive at a sort of enhanced sense of self. So, at first, all of this seemed very appealing, and it was very resonant with how I had encountered classics. My first encounter with ancient Greece and Rome occurred when I was living with my family in New York City's shelter system. I was living in a shelter in Chinatown, Manhattan, and I happened to come across a book on ancient Greece and Rome, and that book enabled me to perform these acts of teleportation in time and space. It enabled me to begin imagining an alterity. However, there's always a however in these stories. It occurred to me later on, as I was approaching the end stages of my undergraduate education and thinking about pursuing graduate education, that encounter with the classics in the shelter came at a cost. Because what I had really been interested in at the time my family and I were living in the shelter, and what I had been pestering my mom to provide me information about, and what I had tried to ransack her brain about, was Dominican history. I was really interested in the experiences of my parents and my grandparents. My grandparents had lived under a dictatorship in the Dominican Republic. My dad had grown up under this dictatorship as well. And my mom was full of this information that she transmitted to her two sons about this dictatorship. But I couldn't find books on Dominican history in this shelter. And then later on, when I was spending my afternoons and evenings in the New York Public Library system, hunting around for these books, sometimes I would find a book that mentioned Dominican history. But rare would be the book that would take on Dominican history as something that was on the same plane of world historical importance as, say, the legacies of the Greeks and Romans, or American history, right? And the effect that those intrusions had on my family's life, on the lives of so many Dominican Americans, on the lives of Dominicans in the diaspora, so on and so forth. And so little by little I began to realize that all of these curricular trajectories that I was on, that had put me in the position where I could study classics, had also been fashioned in settings where certain kinds of histories and certain kinds of narratives had been systematically depreciated. And so the question that I found myself wrestling with as an Afro-Latino immigrant, as an undocumented immigrant, was how to simultaneously emphasize the value of what it was that I did as a classicist, which I enjoyed doing and which I found fascinating. And at the same time call attention to the fact that there were all these other histories, all these other texts, all of these cultural traditions that were menaced into silence and were subjected to the silence and effect.